Yo, what it do, 2K fans? Your boy JuKIng the Boss is back, and as you can see, we're going to talk about this NBA 2K21 next-gen trailer that they dropped on us earlier today. When the notifications went off, I had to stop everything that I was doing and give it a look. I gave it 15 looks to be exact. I needed to see it from every angle, every resolution I could, and just to see what we can expect from next-gen 2K21. And this is the first little bit of a breakdown, and I'm going to try to cover as much of it, the key takeaways I had in it. Now, I know you've probably seen 1,001 videos talking about the breakdowns, talking about the key takeaways, talking about what they see different and what they see that feels the same. And first and foremost, like everybody else, the lighting is beautiful. Character models look a whole lot better, especially in-game character models. But because this footage was cut together, there are some things I'll be able to see that maybe you might have missed. So as we look at it, we see some good movement. We see some good dribble packages. We see some good setups. But is there some bad to take away from this? Are there a few things that stayed the same from one gen to the next? So we're going to break it down. First, like I said, let's finish watching this video. The lighting, oh my, the lighting looks beautiful. It really makes it feel a little more realistic. Clay's model has always looked good, but I think this model looked the best it could ever be. Steph's model was the one who really stood out, and we're going to break down why Steph's model was a whole lot better than it has ever been in 2K past. Clip like that looked really good because it looked pretty realistic when it came down to it, and I think that had everything to do with the lighting and the angle. So let's go straight back to the beginning. We're going to pause with some key takeaways. First and foremost, the first key takeaway I looked at and I saw was the texture packs that are used on the models. Now, when it comes down to making models, the texture really boils down to the size texture that they're able to use. So most games, I don't want to bore you all with these details, but just to give you a quick overlook, most games, if you don't know, are literally, the characters are created with a extremely high res texture. So back in the day, the higher res texture used to be like 2K textures, okay? And I don't mean 2K as in 2K sports or 2K games. I mean 2096? Was it 1024? 2048 by 2048 textures were used on character models, whereas now it's almost a standard to use 8K textures on characters. But when the final product comes out, they have to down res those textures to fit within the memory banks of the game's utilization. So hopefully you understood exactly what I meant by that. So essentially, 2K models were probably always created with 8K textures, but they could never really use 8K textures in games. So it looks like this time we're going to finally get some really good 4K textures being used. And when it comes down to things like facial hair, all that looks good, but it's all in the details of bump mapping. Like, I mean, you see the lines around the eyes. You know what I'm saying? It looks like Zion hadn't been getting no sleep. Whoever he's about to go up against has been in his dreams. Okay, I like that. I really do like that. The details are there, but there are some other details that I happen to notice that really feels like it really boils down to the textures, like that Dame texture. So here's perfect example. You see these lines right here, the lines and the veins that show the emotion. It really just feels like they can use higher res bump map textures to get those lines. And we'll talk about that as you see a similar pose later on. So that Dame footage looks good. That Dame image looks good. I wonder why he's looking down at the floor instead of in the eyes of his enemy that he just cashed that shot out on. This was one of the best parts I did enjoy. I know some people look at it and say, man, I want to see Park. I want to see more gameplay. I want to know what it's going to be about in that multiplayer aspect. But for my career goons, man, when it come down to it, I still love to play me some my career. Sometimes I just like to tune in the game and play it by myself. And I thought that intro was one of the coolest things ever. It'd be great if we can use custom intros. So instead of having to go with the generic intro we had, because we had intros a couple years ago when it came down to walking out of the tunnel, it'd be great if, you know what I'm saying, we could pick a custom intro that they worked on and put some effort behind You know, maybe even start off maybe 20 or 30 different intros that they've modeled into the game. That would be pretty cool. You see him dapping up his owner. That's something awesome right there. It really takes the game to another level of immersion. We ain't gonna talk about this cat right here, okay, who is on everybody's nerves. I'm gonna find out who they model this guy after. I think it's Uncle Fester in the Addams Family. But you see little things like what's going on in the background. Now, this is the thing that kind of sort of weirds me out a little bit. Mainly because the simple fact is like all these cats are practice shooting, and this is a shoot around going on. There's too many cameras on the court, but I do like this level of immersion because there are games where I've seen that are televised games that you see this amount of cameras all on the floor. This is a game that's being televised, and that's what's cool about that. Like, you know that if you're playing My Career and you come out and you see all this on the court, you know that your game is televised. It's a game that everybody, the world, is watching. Okay, so that's cool. Another thing, let's take a quick look at that Steph texture. This is the thing that really makes Steph's facial scan looks so much better. The texture in the hair, that looks like some good wool right there. That's some good wool. You know, that's the finest of wool. So I like that texture pattern, and I'm hoping that translates really well in the final product. Hopefully that texture patterns like this aren't causing the game to hang or stutter, and so hopefully we don't see them downgrade that when the final product come out. But that, because Steph, I've always thought, had a great look when it came down to his render. It wasn't always perfect, but I thought it was always great for what the hardware could do and what they was able to do. But this right here, this makes his render kind of pop out. Not just the higher res textures, you know what I'm saying, the lines around the eyes. You know, you can tell he's had some sleepless nights working on getting that jump shot to be perfected. Okay, so you see that, and that's what makes it like really great, really stand out to me. Clay, I always thought Clay's model always looked good. You know what I'm saying? I think his model looks a whole lot better, but once again, I think that really boils down to the hair texture used on Clay's model. So the first thing I think I saw when it came down to this jump shot being pulled off was, if you look at it, I think that Tim Hardaway Jr. is being controlled by a player. Because as you can see, when he hits that step back, watch the delayed reaction to the jump shot from Tim Hardaway Jr. See how late that reaction was? That's the first thing that worries me. So it's not something that's big to me, but any of you know that you try to play some defense and you feel like you get punished because you input a button on time and it reacted late and your player reacts late. I'm hoping that is not something we're going to see in the final product. We know that the next gen systems are supposed to be running at standard 120 frames a second. And to me, I think the only system that can hurt that is the Xbox Series S. If they try to make 2K run with the 8K textures being downscaled for the Series S, that's going to hurt it. And this is coming from me who play on Xbox and PC. I'm an Xbox fan, been in the Xbox family forever, and I enjoy the console as well. All my friends play, I get together. So I'm not sitting up here crapping on the Xbox, but that Series S, if 2K really looks at it and says, oh yeah, we're not about to optimize for that, that could be a problem. We'll talk about ways that I think they can improve upon that, but that reaction time really had me a little worried because that could be input delay. Now, in this instance, it looked like this is Tim Hardaway Jr. once again being controlled by a player, but it also feels like in this instance, Clay is being controlled by a player. And I'm hoping that that's the case, because what you're going to see is going to be really worrisome of current 2K21 vibes. So you see how as soon as he hit him with that behind the back and he goes to the basket, Clay continues to collapse on his player instead of switching to Kristaps Porzingis. Okay? Now, the thing about it, we all know that he's about to catch this contact dunk. Clay, he might have got pulled into that contact dunk, but Clay should have automatically rotated here. Now, the only way that that's understandable is if Clay is being controlled by a player. So like I said, watch the behind the back, and Clay follows the man instead of sticking with Kristaps. Okay, he should have stuck with Porzingis. So if that's a player, okay, I'm gonna accept that. If that is an AI, I'm gonna be a little upset about that, because these are the same issues that we're currently having on current gen. Like I said, I wanted to keep this video as short as possible, but I wanted to make sure you saw everything that I saw watching this video as many times as I did. The next thing happens almost right away, which is clipping. Now, I have noticed some clipping in the footage. And so the first part where I thought I noticed clipping was about here. First of all, I didn't see no clipping up here in the hands where the hand contacted the other hand, but it did seem like there might have been some clipping around here. First of all, this isn't clipping right here. That looks good, but it isn't till you see his hand get lower. Right there feels like there was clipping. Feels like there was clipping, but it could just be the angle that the footage is being captured at. But I'll show you some clipping later on in the footage itself. That was a good contact. And this was the next part where I was talking about. You remember that where I was talking about Dame earlier, who had those neck veins and everything? When he started to show his emotion here, I didn't see any neck veins started popping up. So once again, that's all texture written. I'm not expecting so much detail that you can see the neck veins start to pop out when they show the emotion. Okay, but I just thought it'd be good to notice. You don't really see that. So once again, this Steph footage right here looks really good, looks really clean. I know some people were wondering about the behind the back, and to me, I think this footage was just clipped differently. So if you look at it, you'll see when, as you can see, boom. At one point, he brings it back and through the legs and everything like that. This is another point where you can tell where they clip the footage. Watch the left foot of Luka and watch where he puts it before the footage clips and changes to where the right foot is. So look at the right foot and the left foot. The left foot's going to be out in front of the right foot. You can tell that they kind of zoomed ahead at one point, and I'll show you exactly when, but it looks good. See that step back? You see where he stepped back at? I know some of you are probably looking like that's just too much. So you see the right foot is behind it and everything, and the left foot is just across the line. But you also notice that right before you saw Hardaway Jr. and Clay, they were running to the left hash. Clay following it, he's following his man, running to the left hash, and then when you see the footage cut, you'll see Clay and Hardaway Jr. coming back the other way. The weird thing is that you can't see him anywhere here where the step back started to happen. You should at least see him over here. So I think that this footage might have been recorded maybe 2 or 3 different times. But as you can see, like, you would have at least seen Clay in that when he started the step back. All right. So I'm not really too mad about that. Step back looked good. The animation looked good. It looked like Steph was being controlled by a player. And here is where I look at the lighting and say, this is what's problematic about the lighting for me. Look at this white line right here. This white line almost goes this exact same way, even when the camera turns. It feels like this lighting is attached to this camera. I know some people are looking at it and saying, okay, now you just find the negative takeaways. No, granted, this is still great lighting. And this is an early build of the next gen version. So I'm giving them all the benefit of the doubt. These are just things that I'm noticing. And if these are things that might be problematic to the gameplay, because that's what matters to me. If these are things that might be problematic to the gameplay, then I'm hoping that they are addressed in the later builds. Lighting is never, to me, a bad thing about gameplay. If you can make the environment look more sweet, then cool. That's always going to be cool. But watch how, even though watch when the lighting starts coming in. You see that? See how the lighting stays on that straight path? I think that lighting is attached to the camera that we're looking from and everything. So even though the lighting is leaving off the screen one way, it feel like it's coming in this way. And it could be because it's attached to what these are emitting lighting from. But I did notice that. I like that. I like that sky cam look. I love seeing how people coming on the court. I love seeing the ushers and everything like that. The security kind of coming in and just making sure people don't randomly run off. I like the camera crew coming on and doing their thing. Those little added details just creates a new level of immersion. I love that walk from Steph and when it comes down to it, that looked like the most beautiful realism in the game. Like, I had to look at that a couple times to see how clean that looked. Just watch it from here. Boom. Watch how clean that look. Look at that. If I didn't pause it, this whole section right here just looks a little too real. And that's got everything to do with good lighting. Like, I won't say good lighting, great lighting, phenomenal lighting and everything. Luca's model actually doesn't look too bad. Still looks a little generic. I would love a little closer look at him, but Luca's model doesn't look too bad. I think there's some room for improvement, but until we see a closer look at that, we'll go with what they got in the current process of things, to go into these cats' houses and destroy them like that. So, like I said, I really thought that the quality of the trailer was great. I'm not oohed or odd about it. There are some good takeaways. There are some bad takeaways. Lighting is always going to be a positive takeaway, but I don't want lighting to be the main takeaway that is good. I really want 2K to be the best version of itself to start off the next gen and then only build up from there. We saw some recession in some cases, and I saw some upticks in other cases in the current gen. But for me, one of the biggest things that I want to see from the next gen of 2K, I know we're going to have more news starting to come out starting tomorrow, and we'll try to keep you up to date on my takeaways from the news. And you know me, I'm going to try to give y'all my spin on how everything sounds and how everything comes off. But let me know down in the comments below, man, are you really looking forward to it? One last thing I want to say is if I can tell you anything to take away from this, maybe not look at this as next gen 2K21 until you know a few people have gotten their hands on it and can give you actual good reviews, detailed reviews. Now, I'm not gonna say whether the reviews will be good or not, but hopefully they can give you good detailed reviews on the takeaways, little things like how the animations feel, and how responsive they are to the controller input before we make a decision on whether or not this is NBA 2K21 next gen or NBA 2K21.5 of the current gen. Either which way, I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little excited for next gen, not because this video just like hype me, but because now we at least have a timeline as to what kind of information, and we know the information is going to start coming out. So keep your eyes on Twitter. I'll leave a link down below on a couple of channels to check out and follow on Twitter. And as always, as much as I'm going to try my best to drop the news and my take on the news as early and as efficiently as possible, you know, you got all kinds of sources out there that you can kind of make sure that you're just keeping up. I want to make sure that the viewers keep up with what's going on in the 2K community, and giving you my takeaway from it is just one man's opinion from the casual / competitive, no, I'm gonna say semi-competitive landscape of 2K. Man, I hope you all are enjoying a blessed day, man. And it's your boy JuKIng the Boss. Stay tuned for more of this 2K news. I don't know. I think that's the best way I can end it off that one. Peace.